I thought that it was going to be an easy one. Trump on Ukraine war settlement and ties with Putin. Russia strikes Ukrainian thermal power plants for a third time in a month. And from Rostov to Kamchatka, Partisans cripple Russia's communications. Exclusive video from Ukrainians intel. The latest news next. US President Donald Trump stated that the war between Ukraine and Russia will inevitably be settled. According to him, it is the only conflict that has not yet been resolved, even though he had considered it the easiest due to his relationship with Putin.
We did that 8 times. Settled conflicts ad e. The only one I didn't do is Russia and Ukraine.
Trump emphasized that it will suddenly be resolved and that the war will come to an end.
I thought that was going to be an easy one because of my relationship with President Putin. It turned out to be a little different, but I think it'll get done.
About sanctions against Russia, on October 23rd, US President Donald Trump imposed tough sanctions on Russian energy giants. The restrictions targeted Lukoil, Rosneft and their subsidiaries. The sanctions prohibit transactions with the sanctioned companies and all their subsidiaries. Later, German Chancellor Friedrich Merz said he expected an exemption from the new US sanctions for Rosneft, referring to the company's operations in Germany under German government management. Subsequently, the US did exempt Rosneft's German subsidiary from the sanctions. Bloomberg reports that the sanctions could seriously impact Russian oil exports, in particular shipments to India, which surged after the start of the full-scale war in Ukraine, could soon drop nearly to zero. Meanwhile, Reuters sources reported that the US restrictions have forced Chinese state-owned oil companies to temporarily hold purchases of Russian oil, at least in the short term. Kremlin dictator Vladimir Putin is more determined than ever to continue the war against Ukraine and achieve victory on the battlefield, NBC News reports. An analysis presented to members of the US Congress this month showed that American intelligence sees no signs that Russia is willing to compromise on Ukraine, while US President Donald Trump is trying to act as a mediator in peace talks. This information was provided to the outlet by a senior US official and a high-ranking member of Congress. According to 2 other sources, this assessment aligns with how the US and Western intelligence have viewed Russia's position since February 2022, when Putin ordered the unprovoked invasion of Ukraine. At the same time, the official and the congressman say that Putin is now taking a firmer stance than ever. Intelligence reports indicate that faced with heavy Russian military losses and economic difficulties at home, the Russian dictator seeks to retain Ukrainian territories and expand his country's influence to justify the human and financial cost. NBC added that the White House declined to comment on the recent intelligence assessment but pointed to Trump's public statements about efforts to achieve peace.
As the president stated, these are tremendous sanctions against their 2 big oil companies, which he hopes will help bring about the end of the war. He has been clear that it is time to stop the killing and make a deal to end the war.
He added that the US will continue to advocate for a peaceful resolution to the war, and achieving a durable peace depends on Russia's willingness to engage in sincere negotiations. On the night of October 30th, Russia once again attacked thermal power plants in various regions of Ukraine. This is the 3rd massive strike on TPPs within a month, the tech energy company says. According to the company, Russian strikes severely damaged the equipment of several thermal power plants. The tech adds that energy specialists are already working to eliminate the consequences of the Russian attack and restore the operation of the stations. This is the 3rd massive Russian attack on the company's thermal power plants in October, the statement says. In total, since the start of the full-scale invasion of Ukraine, Russia has attacked the company's energy facilities over 210 times. About Russian strikes on Ukraine. Since last night, Russia has been launching massive attacks on Ukraine with drones and missiles. A series of powerful explosions rocked the western regions of the country: Ivano-Frankivsk, Lviv, Ternopil, Vinnytsia, Khmelnytsky, and other regions. The situation is tense in the city of Burштyn in the Ivano-Frankivsk region, where a thermal power plant is located. Russian strikes were heard there continuously for almost 3 hours. In addition, in the Vinnytsia region, where there is also a thermal power plant, the Russian strikes caused the loss of heat and water supply. According to the Vinnytsia Regional Military Administration, the region suffered one of the most powerful attacks. As a result of the Russian strikes, civilians and critical infrastructure were damaged, and residential buildings and transport were destroyed. At least 5 people were injured. In Zaporizhia, against the backdrop of the Russian attack, about 30 strikes were recorded and over a dozen people were wounded, including children. In Ukraine, after another massive strike by the Russian army, hourly power outage shuttles were introduced. Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelenskyy has said that Russia used more than 650 drones and over 50 missiles of various types in its latest strike on Ukraine, reported by Zelenskyy on social media.
In many of our regions, emergency and rescue operations are still underway after last night's Russian attack. It was a complex, combined strike. The enemy used more than 650 drones and over 50 missiles of various types, including ballistic and aeroballistic ones. Many were shot down, but unfortunately, there have been hits. Ordinary residential buildings in Zaporizhia have been damaged, and there has been destruction at a dormitory. Tens of people have been reported injured in this strike, including 5 children. Tragically, 2 people have been killed. My condolences to their family and loved ones. Rescue operations continue.
Zelenskyy said that Russia struck energy facilities and civilian infrastructure in Vinnytsia, Kyiv, Mykolaiv, Cherkasy, Poltava, Dnipropetrovsk, Chernihiv, Sumy, Ivano-Frankivsk and Lviv regions. All the relevant services are now working to restore power and water supply as quickly as possible everywhere it has been disrupted. Zelenskyy has reminded international partners of the need for new pressure measures on Russia's oil, gas and financial sectors, as well as for secondary sanctions against those who bankroll the war. Partisans of Ukrainian Defense Intelligence (HUR) carried out a series of sabotage operations in Russia, destroying several cellular towers and communications equipment of local mobile operators at once, according to the HUR. Across Russia, cellular towers and communications equipment of local mobile operators continue to ignite, the HUR said. In recent months, fires have been recorded, particularly in the Republic of Adygea, the Rostov region, Kamchatka, as well as on the temporarily occupied territories of Ukraine. Resistance to the criminal war against Ukraine inside the aggressor state is strengthening, the HUR added. About partisan sabotage against the Russians. Earlier, partisans infiltrated the ranks of the enemy army and helped put a Russian Panzer S-1 out of action in the Kherson region. Partisans also conducted reconnaissance of a strategic Russian facility, the 120th Arsenal of the Main Missile and Artillery Directorate in Bryansk. Also, partisans from the 82nd Motorized Rifle Regiment of the Armed Forces of Russia helped disrupt an enemy advance near Volchansk. This information allowed the defense forces of Ukraine to prepare defenses in advance and carry out preemptive strikes on enemy positions. Attaché agents in one of the military units in the Berdyansk area destroyed 2 pieces of military equipment, a fuel tanker and a UAZ. At the beginning of September, movement agents conducted reconnaissance of a defense plant in Russia that produces solid fuel rockets. And in temporarily occupied Crimea, attached partisans fixed the coordinates of S-300, S-400, SAM systems and radars. The information was passed to the armed forces of Ukraine for subsequent strikes on enemy targets. That's all for today. Thanks for watching this video. Support Ukraine, like and subscribe.